creative friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Denise at Salvaged Inspirations, and welcome back to my furniture painting channel. Today's inspo came from a movie that my sister and I went to see a couple of nights ago. Barbie! While we were watching the movie, I was watching the whole set and I thought I have the perfect little fun desk to make a Barbie desk makeover with. So today I'm sharing how I got the custom Barbie color and a lot more. So just let me get set up and I'll be right back. Let's start. Here's the fun part. So I found this desk selling at my local restore for $35. I brought it home and it's been sitting in my inventory for well over a month. But while I was watching Barbie, the movie, I was fascinated with the plastic looking Barbie Land set. They did a really great job with it. And it inspired me to pull out this thrift desk I had sitting in my inventory and to paint it into a Barbie-inspired desk. Just goes to show that inspo comes from everywhere and anywhere, right? As you can see, the cutouts and the cubby hole on this desk are so interesting. And it's a solid desk, a great piece of wood. But it was a little scratched up and it did need a little TLC before working on it. I started by giving this desk a good cleaning and then removing the original hardware. The drawer was a little wonky and wasn't sitting in the drawer or the space properly because one of the railings had fell out, but luckily it was also included in the drawer, so it just needed a little wood glue and to be put back in place. Once it was cleaned, the hardware was removed, and the small repair was made, it was time for sanding. And I did give this desk a total scuff sanding from top to bottom, but the top really needed some extra attention because there were a lot of scratches. Most of them were superficial scratches. There were a few that were quite deep that the sander could not totally, completely smooth out. So I sanded as much as I could to get a nice even surface. Once I removed all the sanding dust, it was time for primer, and I used my favorite BIN shellac base primer on this desk, which is a bonding primer. It also eliminates odors, it eliminates bleed through, and what I love most about it is it dries super fast and it accepts paint within a half hour, 45 minutes of applying it. So what I do is I just open it up, I give everything a really good stir because the shellac will just sit on top and it does separate. I use a little Dixie cup to put the shellac base primer onto a paper plate, and then using a high density foam roller, I go ahead and roll on my first coat. I have a full tutorial on how to use BIN shellac base primer, which I'll add in the cards above and also in the description down below. So using my 4-inch high density roller, I went ahead and applied the primer to the top of this desk. And as you'll see, it rolls on quite thin. This primer is very thin and it dries very quickly. So you have to move quite quickly when you're using it. But again, that's one of the pluses of it. It dries so quickly. You can move on to doing your painting very shortly after it's dried. The other thing that is exceptional about this primer is I see the bleed through beating through if the primer has not completely covered it. I can't tell you how many times in the past where I have used a primer, then I've painted, Then I've applied a top coat, and oh my goodness, the bleed through is starting to show through because the primer was not an indicator whether it was totally covered or not. In that case, I would have needed an extra coat. But when I use the BIN shellac base primer, if I see some of the bleed through beating through the first coat, I know it needs a second coat. Once the bleed through is not showing through at all, I know that I am safe to go ahead and paint and top coat, and nothing is going to rear its ugly head at the end of my project. And here's a close-up of what I mean. I really hope that you can see it. On the right side, I've applied 2 coats of the primer, and then on the rest of this desk, you can see that the bleed through is actually beating through. So once again, I know it needs a second coat, and once it's totally covered, I'm good to go. Now for the fun part. I'm gonna share how I mix this bubblegum pink custom color over on the Dixie Belle website. So just let me plug in the screencast here. So once again, here's the recipe that I used. It was 4 parts peony to 4 parts fluff to 2 parts honky tonk red, which gave me this beautiful bubblegum pink custom paint color. Once I mixed the color, I was super excited to try it on the desk. So I ended up painting part of the front of the desk, and then I went ahead and I filled in the larger scratches that needed filling in with wood filler, let that dry, and sanded them down, and then spot primed over them. And now the desk was ready for the full paint job. I applied 2 coats of this custom bubblegum pink onto the desk. And I will just mention a quick tip when you're mixing a custom color. Make sure to keep the recipe on hand. So either download it or take a screen image or even write it down on a little piece of paper or notebook that you have, just in case you need to mix up more. But an even better idea is to mix up a little bit more than you think you need, because the worst thing is if you're creating a custom color, and then let's say 3/4 of the way through you run out of the paint, you try and duplicate that custom color, and for some reason it's slightly, a shade lighter or darker, etc. Now that shouldn't happen if you have the correct recipe, but it's just easier to mix up a little more than you think you'll need. And once I had the desk painted in the main color, I thought, nah, we can do better than this. So I actually took the more vibrant peony at 100% strength and an artist brush, and I started painting in the wood cutouts just to give it that extra pop. So in the cubby holes on the side, I painted peony, and then using the artist brush, once again, I painted right within the cutout, so it really popped. And I just want to share another quick tip with you, which I know I've mentioned in a few of my other videos, but when you're painting on a straight edge, often I do not tape it off with painter's tape, because if you apply the paint and then bring your brush at it on an angle, you will get a very crisp, clean line on that edge. Another quick tip is always making sure that you use the bristles of your brush to get right into those corners. Cut into those corners, let the brush do the work for you. So again, here's the edge. I'm loading the brush with a good amount of paint, and then coming at the edge on an angle. You see, when I come at the edge with an angle, it creates a really crisp line. I let the entire desk dry, and I came back down the next morning to apply my top coat. And I used my spray gun and gator hide, and I added 2 coats of gator hide top coat to this desk, leaving about 2.5 to 3 hours in between each coat. And my Barbie-inspired desk is complete. So here's the before. And here's the after, and I have to say, This was so much fun. It brought back childhood memories. I was smiling from ear to ear while I was painting it. And I have to say, what a fun piece of furniture. I cannot wait to hear what you think. Thought this was a fun makeover just like I have. I had a blast painting this desk and I hope you love it as much as I do. If so, please leave me a like or a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I love hearing from you. So feel free to leave a comment down below. I love all your comments and the feedback is fabulous. Other than that, you can find me over at salvagedinspirations.com, where I have over 500 furniture painting tutorials teaching you how to make your furniture beautiful. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous week. Bye, guys.